Hey folks, Ryan Kennedy here. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a very special guest today talking all about the best tips and strategies for healthy skin. We all want to look good, youthful, vibrant, and our skin health is a huge component of this in a society where skin issues like acne, eczema, rosacea, wrinkles, dry skin, and all sorts of other things run rampant. This is a huge benefit to so many folks. And even if you don't have these skin issues, it's important to know what you can do to maintain healthy, vibrant skin throughout your life as you get older. So I brought on Amitay Eshel to talk about this topic since he's deep in the biohacking and beauty field. This dude has held executive roles in health, wellness, and beauty industry for over a decade and has been in the business development space. And he co-founded this company. He's the CEO of Young Goose, which is a biohacking skincare company. And he's also the host of the Young Goose's podcast called Biohacking Beauty. Aimtay has been making waves in this industry through his education and also his innovation. And he really has two passions: performance optimization and skin health, which I love. And so with the products he produces, it really helps address the skin side of things. And then we're going to dive in today's interview into a bunch of other stuff that go beyond just skin products, into lifestyle things you can do, different nutrition changes, all sorts of different habits and routines you can incorporate for better skin. So with that intro, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you very much. Very, very generous intro. So glad to be here.
So what got you into your fascination with skin health? Did you have any skin issues when you were younger, or was this just something that you decided you wanted to conquer?
Yeah, so never had like serious skin issues. Growing up, I did have some acne, which I thought the best idea was to take literally like 70% alcohol and rub my face and have my skin peel off. But that was basically it. Like very mild. Growing up, I was as interested in my personal appearance as the next guy, growing up in a vain society, if you would. But yeah, I did not think I'm going to be dealing with like skin health. Okay.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you mentioned in a vain society, while I do agree with that statement, I also think that, at least my perspective is like, dude, when you look good, you feel good. And you don't have to be like all into vanity metrics or superficial stuff to want to look your best and to show up and have increased confidence, and it enhances the way you communicate with others and the way you feel about yourself, and all these other things I think really go a long way. Even if you're not into the whole vanity metric side of things, you're not a professional model or anything like that. Oh, we lost you. There you go.
Can you hear me? Yeah, so to answer your question, I think, especially as we grow older, like I would say towards the peak of our sexual expression, of us as a human being, and also past that point, I think skin is an interesting component, because really it is the outside expression of our health, and not only necessarily because it is congruent with how healthy we are inside, is because as far as we grow older, the older we get, the skin is an organ that is being prioritized less and less. Like our body, past its reproductive prime, is really geared towards preferential treatment of systems. So your heart or your liver or your ability to carry heavy weight, for example, is gonna kind of withstand the test of time for decades past your sexual prime.
Mm-hmm.
But your skin, for that matter, is showing decline almost immediately. So you hit 30, your skin's not as you know. It's very easy to kind of assess someone's age by looking at them. We can be off by like 5 years, I don't know, 10 years if we need glasses or something. But science shows that one of the best ways to assess someone's biological age is by guessing their age when looking at them. And the reason is because it's one of the last systems that are being prioritized in the body as far as longevity.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking at how our skin performs, obviously we have like two ways to care about it. One is just if we want to attract a good mate and, something like that. But the other one is really assessing every other system that we have in our body and how well it works, because we're not going to look our best if anything else in our body doesn't perform optimally. So I think there's two types of vanities there, and they both kind of coalesce into how our skin looks, but they could come from a completely different angle. And I think as men, as we grow older, it is definitely the second kind of angle that is becoming more and more dominant, is like, how am I ranking? And even subconsciously, how am I ranking in society? How vibrant am I? How kind of at my peak am I to maintain my alpha status in the environment, if you would? And how I look, how vibrant I look, is kind of a reflection of how my body performs and looks. And also on a physiological level, also on a mental level, they are linked.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And a lot of skin issues, to your point, is representative of internal imbalances. Like when someone has acne, it can be due to some hormone imbalances. When someone has any type of like fungal breakout on their skin, it's usually caused by a candida or fungal overgrowth in the gut. So same thing with like athlete's foot. Same thing goes with eczema. It could be indicative of some immune imbalances. And so there's a lot of these things that can be telltale signs that there's something internally off that you would want to address and work on. And I've always been a big believer that, healthy skin comes from the inside out, by taking care of yourself, eating good nutrition. I personally have never been one to use any topical skin products, like no, special face washes or lotions. I just use like bar soap everywhere, and that's my jam. But at the same time, I see the value in some of these topical serums and creams to bring some nutritional support topically. One thing I want to ask about right off the bat, dude, because I am a huge advocate of what I call sensible sun exposure, really harnessing the powers of the sun without burning your skin and, staying out for 4 hours at a time. And I'm curious because some of the biggest pushback people will provide with getting out in the sun and not lathering on high SPF sunscreen if you're going out there for 10 or 20 minutes is that it causes excessive aging of your skin. And then obviously can, the other arguments, which I've talked about before, why I don't entirely agree with it, is that it can increase your risk of skin cancer. Curious as a biohacking skin dude, what your thoughts are on sun exposure and skin health.
I think it's its own. I mean, that's probably the best question you can ask, to be frank. That really epitomizes everything that we are talking about in the health and wellness world into like one question. And the reason it's so interesting is because whatever you would have said, you're right. Let's start with what you mentioned first. Does it exacerbate like DNA damage? Well, it certainly does. So, what the UV radiation is unless you live in a very polluted city, it is the driver of skin aging. Okay. So the reason is because UV rays don't only create, when they meet your skin, they don't only create oxidative stress, which they do, but they also literally fuse parts of your DNA together. And what that causes is, aside from having, older skin, that creates a kind of cascade, a kind of ripple effect of aging that actually spreads to your brain and to your body. And we can get into how it does that. So that's what I kind of alluded to before. Like the older we get, it's not only our skin looking worse than it has before, it actually affects how we age, not necessarily also, obviously also vice versa, but it also kind of drives aging in the body. But you're also correct to say that we rely on the sun for many of our hormonal, our endocrine system requirements, again, cascades, etc. And also that sunblocks can cause skin cancer, not only skin cancer, by the way, many other things. So and I think a simple answer would be there are two types of sunblocks. One is a chemical sunblock and one is a mineral sunblock. Chemical sunblocks are very much like sunglasses, which I also don't recommend wearing, by the way. But sunglasses absorb most of the harmful to your eyes, most of the harmful rays, right? But what happens is that when that happens in your skin, that gets converted into thermal energy. And if you remember the whole controversy with electronic cigarettes and basically saying, how did we not know it's so bad for you? Someone was saying, well, it's actually vitamin E that killed all these guys, or harmed their lungs. But vitamin E becomes a really bad substance when exposed to excessive heat. Same thing happens with everything else in your skin, by the way. And so you create vitamin E actually in your skin, but also anything else that is in that sunblock. So when you get that conversion from UV to thermal energy, that is really bad for you. The second thing that happens is that the sun is a detoxifier. It induces detoxification, release of toxins from the skin, which obviously is positive. So this chemical sunblock coats the top of the skin and doesn't let toxins to exit the skin. And that is actually kind of concentrating them in one area instead of them being, dispersed overall. So you can think of a sharper knife. It's still the same material, but it would cut further, right? Because it concentrates on a very small area. So that's talking about chemical sunblocks. Mineral sunblocks, they don't block the skin. They are like if you remember, like when you see like old movies, lifeguards have like white powder on their nose. That's a mineral sunblock. If you see people in Far East Asia, if they have this white powder on their skin, that's a mineral sunblock. And we can use zinc oxide in a way where no one's going to see it. It's not white anymore, and it's going to be an amazing sunblock. But you should definitely only use it on places that are overly exposed to the sun: your face, the back of your hands, neck, whatever. The rest of the areas, they actually need to get sun for many reasons, obviously hormonal reasons, but they're not really getting sun. We wear shirts all the time, so you shouldn't be really worried about the excessive DNA damage you're getting there. By the way, that DNA damage also exists with EMF, with pollution, with blue light from artificial light. So the fact that we're only talking about UV in that aspect is, I think, most of us are way more exposed to these other elements rather than just UV from the sun.
No, what you're saying makes sense. So let me ask you this, dude, because I agree, like excessive sun will definitely accelerate skin aging. And yeah, you could take things like astaxanthin and antioxidants to help with that. But would you say from a skin health perspective solely, not really assessing, hormone imbalances or vitamin D levels or anything like that, you're suggesting someone would be better off getting minimal sun if they want to just minimize skin aging, opposed to saying like, hey, if you go out for 10 or 20 minutes, it's probably not going to cause that much damage to your skin, and there might even be a hormetic effect, and it actually can be healthy for the skin?
Well, first of all, just to answer like and again, very good question. Like let's say we answer only that really singular question of what's better for a wrinkle, then no sun, absolutely no sun is better. Okay. Now, having said that, because we're not living in a vacuum, we're looking at other components as well. We definitely want to get sun, which is before 10 a.m. or after 4 p.m. If you ask me as an individual, in my opinion, and trying to foresee the future of where science kind of leads us, I believe also the same way that we have every cell in our body has a circadian clock, which means it kind of relies on different cues from the environment to assess what time of day it is. And I believe our skin cells have a mechanism, and I believe through research that I read, but it needs to be researched further, that our skin will become more resilient if you exposed it very early in the day to sun. It will handle sun damage better further on. So I think one of the biggest mistakes we're doing is not getting any sun exposure, for days on end, and then going just, full tilt when the sun is in zenith, like noon, just going for 3 hours and, laying, without any sunblock or anything like that. It's really like trying to deadlift 350 pounds when we have never gotten off the couch. There is a paradox there, which is more complicated than yes or no.
Yeah, good analogy.
Yeah.
And when the sun is at a low solar angle, it's much less harsh on the skin, I would assume, and
Well, yeah.
helps as a signaling agent still for that, circadian biology. And then in regards to, I guess one thing I always find fascinating is just from my own observations, and this is the last point I'll make on this whole topic, and we'll switch gears. When I look at people I know personally, which is again not a huge cohort of individuals, but just older people I know that work outside, surf, spend time in the sun, versus older people I know that are homebodies or live in cold climates, never leave the house, stay indoors all day. And I just look at their complexion and their skin health. And obviously there's other variables like nutrition and genetics and lifestyle choices. But it seems to me people that are outside always seem to look better to me. I don't know if it's just like, some convoluted variables involved that, because they are active, or maybe they're just happier humans because they're getting sunshine and not inside all day. But I don't know if you've witnessed the same thing or what your thoughts are on that.
I think that's an anthropological question rather than just like a simple question like you're asking. Maybe we should ask, like, when someone's 60 years old, if the sum of the decisions that they've made in their lifetimes allows them to live in a better climate, doesn't it mean they've probably have made other good decisions that someone that cannot afford, for whatever afford means, by the way, it is definitely also financial, but not only financial. The sum of that person's decisions hold her, whatever, in a place where they cannot make the decision of living in a better climate. Wouldn't that probably suggest that they've also made poor decisions about their health in general, about their life, style, life circumstances in general? I mean, I think it's more complicated than whether they got more sun or not, but definitely, that definitely, I mean, again, the sun is an imperative component of good hormonal health, and there is nothing more important than the circadian rhythm, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And if someone prioritized getting sun in the morning, whether it is because that's their lifestyle and they just wanted to get more sun, in the long run, in those accumulation of micro decisions over the years, they have definitely benefited from a much more robust, much better circadian rhythm and more robust immune system, etc., which would contribute to ameliorating the onset of aging, for that matter.
Yep, makes sense. I agree. Okay, I want to talk about acne. What are some of the top or biggest and like most common causes of adult acne? And then I want you to talk a little bit about some solutions.
Okay. So it actually would really diverge between men and women when we kind of hit, past puberty. Also during puberty, but also past you asked about adult acne.
Yeah, let's start with women. Just from my, again, limited experience in my practice, they tend to have it's more common. I could be wrong about that, but I tend to see more women than men that have challenges with acne.
Yeah. So, first of all, women have their basically their stages of the month. So their cycle, to sync their cycle in order for them to have a better hormonal balance, which would lead to less breakouts and acne, etc. So it is, since a woman is basically has a completely different, or not completely different, but a different hormonal makeup every week of the month, that tends to have a lot of, let's call it, a lot of like mistakes that can happen hormonally, as far as how you treat your body, what you were doing, what food you were eating, etc., which would then lead to poor skin health and poor gut health. By the way, let's just start with the fact that the gut is the main driver of acne and skin microbiome. So what is acne? Acne is basically a bacteria that propagates in the skin. It's called P. acne bacteria. It basically sits around a hair follicle, and it doesn't let the body release release sebum for that matter. There is a lot of inflammation around that hair follicle, and that's what we know as acne. But what we know as acne is a response to acne. It's not really acne. Acne is that bacteria, if you would think about it that way. So better skin microbiome would lead to lack of acne or to a clear skin. So that's a bacterial issue. And obviously our gut microbiome directly correlates to our skin microbiome. So that's number one. Number two is our hormones. And number three is good skin hygiene, which is also, obviously, again, we were talking about micro decisions before. Skin hygiene doesn't happen when you're freaking out because you have, bacterial overgrowth that is expressed in acne, and then you are trying to scrub it off. That's not how it works. What you're going to create is probably more imbalance because you're going to disrupt your skin barrier. You're going to actually kill off as much good bacteria as you would bad bacteria if you're not doing the right things. That's going to create a snowball effect. So all of those three things are very dominant in women, but men, especially if men are doing a lot of contact sports where they kind of exchange microbiome with other people, or if they are boosting their testosterone, both of those things would cause either contamination of their microbiome, or it would cause, disruption of hormones, not even disruption, just more testosterone, which would cause more acne. Having said that, yeah, go ahead.
Do you know the mechanism of why imbalance in hormones, like too much testosterone in this example, would lead to this bacterial imbalance on the skin that causes the acne?
So that is not necessarily the bacterial imbalance. We all have bacterial imbalance. So we all have more or more P. acne bacteria than we should if we want to have clear skin. Most people have a good balance between shedding of dead skin. That's one thing that is very important, and we're going to get back to it when we talk about overexpression of hormones. The release of sebum, and obviously a balance between good and bad microbiome. When we're in a hyper anabolic state, for that matter, first of all, there is this disruption in release of dead skin. So we're kind of accumulating more. We're kind of are being kind of left behind with the amount of skin that we can shed, which is super important. And the second is that we create more sebum. So we try to release more of that. Our sebaceous glands are hyperactive. And those two things together are leading to what we can see in like bodily acne in men with that are boosting their testosterone, or women, and a few other things that are happening from that. We can see it also obviously in other glands as well, by the way. It's not only in our sebaceous glands. That also happens in sweat glands and in our lymphatic system. So yeah.
Got it. So coming back to, some of the solutions, for anyone that is struggling with this, where do you usually have people start? Do you have them do some microbiome testing? Do you have them first do like a hormone panel, see where things are at, and then from there, I'm sure it's very
okay. So this would diverge.
Dependent.
Yeah. First of all, for sure, but that would diverge really heavily between men and women. So first of all, women, since we've started with women, we would definitely, recommend educating themselves and their partner, by the way, anyone who lives with them, partner, parents, whatever, with what it means to have a good cycle syncing. So cycle syncing means that you live your life, you consume food and exert energy, and you live a life that is consistent with your menstrual cycle. So it means less activity in your luteal phase, for example, which is the week before your menses, and that's I highly recommend a book called Into the Flow. That would be probably my first recommendation. There are many apps that people can follow. If someone wears an Oura ring or a whoop strap, that is going to tell you where you are in your menstrual cycle and according to your temperature, and is going to kind of guide you through what you should do. But that's number one, as far as women are concerned. After that, yeah, I definitely recommend doing some kind of stool testing and seeing what's going on in your gut. If you want an easier solution than that, there is a specific probiotic I really like. It's called Serene Skin. It's by a company called Microbiome Labs. And that's really magic. Obviously, if there is an underlying issue, it's not a magic bullet. But if we just want to improve the way that our gut functions as it relates to acne, that's what I would highly recommend. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I've used their product Megaspore in my practice for years. And it looks like this is just a different substrain of that same bacillus species of probiotic.
Yeah. So, microbiome, I think what they've done in recent years is obviously, since they got bought out as well, but I think they have tried to look at specific solutions that assuming that you would be looking for more than one solution, would then also benefit the entire organism, which is you. And that's, I think, the direction that they're going. So, for example, I still take Megaspore, but I would take, for example, ZenBiome, which is their kind of sleep support, probiotic, together with it. And they seem to be working very well together. Apart, I didn't see actually any difference in my sleep score. But if I take them together over a couple of weeks, that seems to help tremendously. But that's number one. Another product that I would recommend, like off the shelf, if someone's not doing an extensive testing to see if they have like leaky gut or something like that, is a company called Qualia, or the company is called Neurohacker Collective, but the products are called Qualia. So there's Qualia Skin. So a lot of the times, if we don't have the right building blocks, our skin's going to have a harder time creating its protective barrier, its skin barrier, and compromised skin barrier would lead to sensitivity, acne, and things like that. So Qualia Skin is a very good kind of, all around, let's call it just like a multivitamin that is specifically for the skin. So these two together tend to really solve a lot of issues. But obviously, if you have hormonal imbalance, if you have anything from a hypoactive thyroid to gut microbiome disbalance, all of those things are really going to express themselves in how your skin looks and functions.
Yeah, that's where the testing can be super helpful, because then you're not guessing. But I like this recommendation on the probiotic. I'm going to start tinkering with that with some patients I work with. As far as the Qualia Skin, I love their formulation for their nootropic, their Qualia Minds. But this, I remember seeing this when it came out, and the one ingredient in here I avoid like the plague via supplementation is iron. And it doesn't have a ton of iron, but it does have iron, which for men who tend to suffer from iron overload with the high, elevated ferritin levels, that's definitely a no-go. But even for females I work with, I never supplement actual iron, just from the work of guys like Morley Robinson and people who have really looked at the iron recycling system, and supplementing with iron kind of being a not advantageous thing to do.
I agree. I think so. That's an excellent point. I would be more worried if we're talking about iron and iron overload. I would be more weary of supplements that have high levels of L-ascorbic acid, which is a type of vitamin C that is, to make a long story short, is going to create a higher iron overload in the system. And I would be looking for different types of vitamin C. I can definitely go into which ones. Calcium ascorbate, probably going to be my recommendation there. A product that you can get through physicians only is called PUR-C, Pure C. And that also has very, very good results as far as like for older people. When I say older people, older than people that we've been talking about now. So people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s that are looking to support their, collagen production or immune function. That is a product I would highly recommend, Pure C or calcium ascorbate for that matter.
I'm glad you brought that up, because vitamin C obviously is very important for collagen synthesis, like you said. And I've never been a fan. I shouldn't say never, but the past several years I've dissuaded people away from just taking plain old ascorbic acid for the same reason, and really prefer food grade vitamin C for more whole food source from camelberry or certain fruits that you can dehydrate and get not as significant of a dosage, but it has the whole complex with it. So there's a product I like called Pure Radiant C that I really like for vitamin C specifically. And then when using higher doses of vitamin C for immune support during times of illness, I do like the mineral ascorbates. There's a magnesium ascorbate I usually recommend. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that versus the calcium. Or if is any mineral bound ascorbate going to avoid the issues of plain old ascorbic acid?
Yeah, they should. Again, like what I'm saying right now is an extrapolation, but they should, because they are not going to have your system release more iron, like free iron, into the blood. So yeah, the issue should be avoided. Having said that, I would not, and you kind of mentioned it, but I wouldn't like just wake up one day and decide to, up my uptake of vitamin C for other reasons. We mentioned the gut. That is, if you are doing it like cold turkey, you are going to create some gut discomfort, and depends on what else you're taking, you can lower the efficacy of other products that you're taking, such as like vitamin A, which is like super important. Or I wouldn't just like I would titrate. That's number one. And number two, I definitely take a mineral bound vitamin C.
Yeah, but for most of the gut upset, you'd have to take a pretty high dose, at least for most people. Some people are more sensitive.
The reason I said it is because when people hear that, let's say, for example, vitamin C will increase collagen production, they're like, okay, how much can I take? 10,000 milligrams. Let's do that.
If a small amount is good, a lot is great. that's the logic, Amitay.
Exactly.
No, I agree. And on the topic of collagen, I'm curious what your thoughts are on just collagen peptides. And it's clearly an industry in the supplement sector that just exploded in the last 4 or 5 years in popularity. And I like collagen. I'll add some collagen protein to smoothies and such. But I'm just curious what your thoughts are in terms of its actual efficacy with skin health, and if people are, wasting their money dosing up on 40, 50 grams of collagen a day, or if there's like a threshold that you like to aim for.
Well, call it, or any kind of protein is actually more like a multivitamin than a vitamin. You know what I'm saying? So what we're looking at is a ratio of amino acids, and then we give them a name for that matter. Okay.
Yep.
And what happens, what I like collagen peptides for is for glycine. So that would be something that I would want to take either, closer to bedtime or after a workout. But as far as collagen for skin health, that would be more a non-direct approach. So it's not like if I drink collagen, my body's going to take this collagen, which is a name. So it's going to take it and just, drive it to where I have a wrinkle and just place it there like a puzzle piece. That's not how it works. It breaks it down to its amino acids, and then it's basically using it like a building block. So technically speaking, that's a little tricky to say that it's going to help the skin directly. What it would do, though, it would definitely fortify our gut. That's number one. Our gut is like 6% collagen. So this is very important, and that's going to improve our skin. And you are, increasing your available amino acids, which is fantastic. Yeah. But aside from that, there's no like direct correlation. My joke is if I eat a banana, I'm not going to become a unicorn. I'm not going to have a banana growing through my forehead. Right?
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah.
But yeah, to your point, you do get glutamine, which helps with the gut, and then you get proline and hydroxyproline, and just some of these amino acids that can complement the amino acid profile we get from animal foods, if you're eating chicken and beef and things of that nature. On that point, aside from vitamin C, what other nutrients or supplements do you like for actually helping your body's collagen production?
Okay, so I think first of all, that's a rabbit hole I'd love to get into, but I would say that if we are interested in just skin appearance in general, we might want to steer the conversation away from just collagen specifically, and we should mention hyaluronic acid as a supplement. So that is something that has a lot of science behind it. Supplementing on hyaluronic acid, again, you're going to get other benefits like joint health and things like that, but it definitely is very helpful for plump skin. So that's number one.
And is there a specific product you like for that, or a specific dosage that you use?
So I like two brands, and they have completely different dosages. So I'll just say the brand and let the people follow the package. One is if they wanted to take a longevity multivitamin, or it's not a vitamin, but a multi for longevity, I like a company called Novos, Novos Labs.
Yeah, I had one of the co-founders, Chris, on this podcast for an interview just maybe about a year ago. And I do like that formula he came out with for, forget the name of the product, but Novos had its main flagship.
Core is their main product.
Something like that. But it was an interesting formula.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think it's a kind of if someone didn't want to go ahead and really perform, dive into the nitty gritty of longevity supplements and just wanted something that they can take and forget about it, that would be my preference, because I think, just taking something simple that works for you is better than getting confused and not doing anything. So that's having said that. But if you really want to dive into specific supplements or specific molecules and just find the best source, I really like a company called donotage.org. And they sell hyaluronic acid on its own. Very easy to use. I take it on empty stomach in the morning. So I take my NAD precursors and hyaluronic acid together in the morning and on empty stomach. And that is, as far as I know, the best way to supplement on that.
And can you give a really brief, just general idea for people listening in of how this hyaluronic acid works in supporting your skin health?
Yeah, so hyaluronic acid is something that your cells use in order to store hydration aside from other parts of the body. So it's not only our skin, but our hyaluronic acid can contain 1,000 times its weight in moisture. It means that it is a very good way for us to store moisture and shuttle moisture around for that matter, which can be used for cell lining and for extracellular hydration. So it is used in every part of our body that needs to maintain elasticity. Along other molecules, there are specific genes that we can recognize. One of them is even called HAS that are specifically to encode more hyaluronic acid production, and we can see that this is one of the things that lower with age. We also know, molecules that increase them, and we can see how increasing hyaluronic acid improves the, skin plumpness, cellular function, metabolism, etc. So this is not only a supplement that would, again, help us in the short term look better, but it also helps cells function better as time goes on. One of the things that, as I alluded to before, that one of the things that people are going to see improvement in, and we'll see it a lot. We can see it with collagen. We can see it. We can go down a list of a lot of molecules that work that way. We can see that a lot of connective tissues are going to respond to the same molecules in the same way. So our tendons, joints, and our skin, a lot of the times are going to improve or deteriorate together. And that is one of those things. The process of glycation is very interesting in as far as how that would work both in tendons and in skin. And there are many other processes like that. But yeah.
One question, and I know, you can't say both here, but if you had to choose between one, supplements or topical serums for someone who just wants healthy skin, they might not, have any specific skin issues, but they're like, dude, I don't want to look old and wrinkly and I want to, look vibrant. Which route, if you can only choose one of those two?
I would say below 40 supplements, over 40 topicals.
Got it. All right, dude. Well, we didn't even get to almost any of the questions I had, but I got to wrap this up because I only have the next, 10 minutes to my next call. So we're going to have a round two. I would love to have you back on and dive deeper into some of these things, but I just wanted to have you share a little bit about what you're doing with your company, Young Goose, a little bit about the products you guys offer, and then in closing, where people could find more about your work.
Yeah, sure. So what we do is we are a very innovative company. We try and lower the functional age of the skin. We talked a little bit about processes. So we try to really look at everything from an epigenetic point of view. How do we make the cells behave like younger cells? When we say cells, it's skin cells mostly. And then we can ask the skin to do specific things. So obviously you're not going to know, if you're sitting and watching Netflix, you're not going to really know how your body function in its functional age, right? It's when you ask it to do something, when you place demand on it. So we place demand on the skin, and we do it through either one product or through different systems, which they can find on our website, which is younggoose.com, all one word, younggoose.com. And we have 4 major systems. We talked about acne, hydration, hyperpigmentation, and overall aging, which is wrinkles, laxity, things like that. They can take a very short quiz. It's like 5 questions, which would direct them to the right place. And it's pretty easy to do. The results we believe, are the best that there are in the world. As I said, not only our website, but also our Instagram is super informative, which is young_goose_skincare. And we have our podcast, which is called Biohacking Beauty, which is really centered around what we talked about here today: holistic strategies to end up in improved skin. But we talk mostly not only about topicals, but mostly about supplements, lifestyle habits, things like that contribute to healthier and better looking skin.
Love it, man. Well, thanks for taking the time. Sir. Thanks for sharing your wealth of knowledge, and it was fun chatting with you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you found it helpful, please share it along to anyone else you believe it can serve. You can submit your own question to be answered on the show by going to ryankennedyhealth.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review for the show. Your feedback helps to support me on my mission to positively impact as many people as possible with this information. Please note, the information depicted in this episode is purely for informational purposes only. Please consult your healthcare professional before making any changes to your lifestyle or routine.